Hello, guys. How are you? Good evening. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight to our important seminar that we're having this evening, which helps high school seniors prepare for college, especially amid with the COVID-19 pandemic. Without further ado, I want to pass it on to Mr. Joel as our moderator, and so we can get going and get down to business. And thank you again for joining us today.
Okay, thank you very much, Ryan. Just a few words here. For those of you that are not familiar with this platform, this is actually a platform that's used in several colleges. And thank you to Madonna University for providing us this platform. So for you high school students, I'm not sure if they use Blackboard yet, but we're using Blackboard for our webinar. So things that you need to know, today's session will be recorded. So if you miss anything, you'll be able to go back and view it again, as well as share with your friends. Just so you know, make sure to keep your audio muted throughout the session. If you have any questions, there's a chat box if you look on the right-hand side of your screen, there should be a purple button there. If you open up that tab, you can see a chat room there. So if you have any questions, I'll be going through the chat room every so often to look at those. And so keep your audio on mute. If you want to share your video later on, that's totally fine too, so we can get to know you. But we have time set aside for questions and answers at the end of today's presentation. So make sure to stay online until the end. And of course, we have prizes today. So we also wanted to help you guys out with some expenses for your books or other school supplies. So we have two $50 gift cards that we will be raffling off at the end of the session. So everyone I can see is on mute. If anyone else just comes on during the program, we'll add you up for the raffle. But right now, I would like to introduce today's speaker. So this is the first of 3 webinars that we've prepared for you to ready for college amidst COVID-19. And our speaker for today's webinar is none other than Dr. Connie Tingsun Gatus. She is the Vice President for Student Affairs and Mission Integration at Madonna University, which is located in Livonia, Michigan. Champion regionally and nationally awarded student retention initiatives at Michigan State University and the University of Michigan. Dr. Connie is also a lead trainer, Bill and Melinda Gates Millennium Scholarship recipient, and the largest college scholarship in the world. Dr. Connie is also a lead trainer for the National College Leadership Training Program, as well as an awardee for the National Asian Pacific Islander Outstanding Mentor, as well as an awardee for the OCA National Pioneer Community Educator. So Dr. Connie is also one of our advisory board members for CAPA as well. So Dr. Connie's there. So before we get to her, I just want to go over our session goals for today's webinar. We'll be discussing the impact of COVID-19 on colleges and universities, as well as explaining changes in the college admission process. We'll be talking about how to exploring how to choose a college during the pandemic, sharing tips on what to look for in the right college, and search for a career that is a good fit. And finally, Dr. Connie will be talking about examining the changing financial landscape. So without further ado, I'd like to turn things over to Dr. Connie.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well this evening. If you could, please mute your audio, and it will help cut down on some of the background noise. Hope all of you are doing well. And again, thank you, Joe, and thank you to CAPA for this opportunity to connect and partner with CAPA. We want to be here as a support to you, especially for those of you who are students and parents who are thinking through some of these questions that you have around college and during these times. I invite you, there are a couple times throughout this time that we're going to be interactive, so please get familiar with the chat box. So I'm going to start us out right now and actually ask you to open up your chat box right now. It is the bottom right corner. It's a purple button, and when you open that link, you'll see a little bell. And if you could right now, just to test the waters, I'd like you to type in the chat box right now to please share one word that describes how you are feeling right now about the college decision-making process, whether you're a student or a parent or a friend or a relative, someone that you know is considering college. Just one word. just type that in the chat box. Give you a second to load that in. Again, it's in the bottom right corner. It's a purple button. And then once you click that on, it's a bubble, the very far left, and it's a chance for you to type in the chat box one word that describes how you feel right now. Go ahead. We getting some posts in there? I know, you didn't expect to start in this hard, this fast. So what I'm asking you to do is to type in one word. It's okay, I won't call you out, but this is a chance for us to connect since we're not physically together. So we see excited. Someone's put in the chat box excited. What other words come to mind as you think about the college decision-making process? What are you thinking about right now? We're in a very interesting time of our lives and trying to think through all these questions. And if you're someone that's joining us, whether you yourself are not a student, but you talk to students that are in high school, or you might talk or be in contact with families that are thinking about all these things, if you can use this chance to kind of be their voice and to try to add some perspective to what we're here to talk about today. So go ahead and type in one word in the chat box. It's in the bottom right corner. It's a purple link. And just type in one word about what you're thinking right now about college. So let me go to the list right now. Type in one word. We see, oh. So I see you're raising your hands. There's a purple box right on the right side in the corner. It's like a little link. And then it looks like a chat box. I don't know, Claire, if you're able to share screen to point out where the chat box is.
Dr. Connie,
Yeah.
some of the chatters are chatting with me on Facebook, but they can't seem to access the chat box, they said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, maybe they can send it to you on Facebook. I'm not really sure why. Let's
Chloe,
make sure.
go ahead and send me something if you want.
Yeah.
It says the chat is off. That's what she's saying.
Oh, okay. Let's make sure that that's not the case because we don't want that.
Okay.
Give me one moment and we will check that.
Okay.
Oh, you are correct. That is why. Thank you for telling us that. Okay, it should be working now. Can you test it right now? Ooh, there we go. Okay, Izzy is stressed. And we see, is that working now?
We have Izzy. Chloe, if you want to, there she is.
Hey,
Chloe's kind of
nervous.
Chloe's
Okay.
kind of nervous. So I know Chloe personally. She's from Rochester High School, from the Honor Society there, and she's going to be transferring, I think, in the fall or she'll be applying. She'll be going to college in the fall. So congratulations, Chloe.
That's great. That's great. Okay, now we're going. So I think that everyone is getting familiar with the chat box. And those of you that are joining us, it's okay. We're going to start with where we are, but we want to make this as personalized and interactive as possible. So thank you for telling us that the chat box wasn't functional because we needed to activate that. But by all means, feel free to pipe in questions throughout this whole session. And at the end, we'll have a chance to connect with questions. So now that we've got the chat box running and some of this content hopefully will be helpful to you, I'm going to share this video so you can see me. And so we are going to go right into, I believe there are questions, right, Joe?
Yeah, but Dr. Connie, here's a question that is pertinent to the students in attendance right now. What impact has COVID-19 had on colleges and universities around the country?
So that's a great question. Right now, there are lots and lots of impacts on colleges, and there are definitely impact on high schools. And one of my roles in higher ed is to kind of lead our response team. And so much has happened. I mean, this has really been a couple months. It's almost hard to believe we're in May 13th. and June is just around the corner. But you can see on your screen some of the things that have happened are campus closures to the public. Over the last several months, we've had a shift from on-ground teaching to online teaching. And so it's been pretty much essential staff that are on campuses right now, college campuses in particular. We've seen a move to the online instruction. In fact, for Madonna, we've moved to online for summer session as well. And many of the campuses are doing that in preparation for a fall year. Another area that has been impacted significantly is travel limitations. So most of, if not all, of athletics, if you're involved in athletics or anything that might be traveling as a team or performing arts, would have either shut down altogether or have been limited. Our last concert for performing arts was literally that week, first week of March. That has shifted in terms of higher education and universities around the entire country. There's on average about 4,000 colleges around the United States, from large institutions, large research institutions, to small institutions, to tribal colleges and historically black colleges, and there's community colleges. There's actually Asian American serving institutions and Hispanic serving institutions, women's colleges, technical colleges. All of them across the board have seen this shift. Those that were living on campus, so those that have had residence halls, living on campus, that has shifted. We went from full functioning residence halls where students lived on their campuses to really being very minimal. There were many students, and still are, who were unable to travel. We had international students across the nation who were traveling, who were visiting and studying from other countries, many of whom their countries were not allowing them to return home, and so finding another accommodation. And then we've had, sadly, students who either for many reasons had unstable home conditions that didn't allow them to go home. So we have seen across the nation residence halls really downsizing to keep everyone safe, to maintain social distancing, to make sure that we are keeping everyone as safe as possible. That has been a real shift in colleges and universities around the country. The ways in which colleges and universities are connecting with students, current students and new students. Clearly, we've gone to online, we've gone to social media, we've got webinars, all kinds of ways, but much of what has shifted is virtual tours, for example. Moving from fairs, high school fairs, college fairs, giving students opportunity to learn and meet with admissions officers. That has shifted. Athletics and performing arts, as I mentioned before, in large part has been suspended, and many of those students would have had scholarships attached to that, and many schools have honored those scholarships despite the fact that their season or activities might have been suspended. We've also seen a lot of volume of student activities move online. If you've gone on YouTube, you've seen lots of information that's out there. There's lots of ways in which students have engaged, student organizations, honor societies have gone in an online forum. And then you see internships. This has been a big shift for us in practicum students and clinicals. So for those students that are in majors of clinicals like nursing clinicals, or they are actually doing an internship in companies. Many companies have suspended internships for the time being, as well as clinicals, and so that has been altered. I am working with a group of nursing students that have moved from an on-ground clinical literally to a virtual clinical, and so we're working with the state of Michigan to make sure that it's all in compliance. And then the last thing that I know many high school students are experiencing are virtual commencements and other graduation activities, ways in which we're trying to celebrate the graduates. The same thing for the graduating class. Lots of changes with all that has been in our time. So what I'd like you to do right now in chat is in the poll, I'd like you to, there's going to be a poll that's going to pop up in a moment, and I'd like to get a sense of your thoughts about, do you think colleges should move to be completely online for the fall semester? Yes or no? What do you think about that? Do you think that colleges should move to be completely online for the fall semester? Or again, if you're someone who is not a student yourself, or you're a parent, or you might have a friend or relatives that you know are in high school that are considering college, what are you hearing? What is the overall sentiment given what our attempts are to keep everyone safe and healthy and care for our loved ones? please, by all means, hit the submit and enter your answers. And then as soon as we get a few more, we'll lock that in, and then you can kind of see where we are. So there's about 9 people who haven't responded yet. You still have time. You just got to click. We're down to 6. Great. And we're moving along. So by all means, what do you think? Do you think colleges should move to go online for the fall semester? About a few more people that we want to enter in. 6 more people, please, by all means. If I'm one of the 6, don't count me, but by all means, feel free. I think it's an interesting time as you're kind of entering your answers, is that we know someone who's either in high school and thinking about college, or we know individuals that are in college. It could be a neighbor, it could be a friend, it could be a relative. And I think right now it's trying to get a sense of what is this going to look like for the future as high school students are really looking to what the college experience will look like. So we have 6 more people if you want to enter your final answers. Give you about 30 more seconds to do so. It could be the 6 of us that are working on this activity, so that's possible. But why don't we go ahead and lock that in? So as you could see in the final poll, the majority said yes, right? Is that what you got, Joe?
The majority, you're right,
Yeah.
Dr. Connie, the
Yeah,
majority.
I think it was only 2 people that said no.
Right, right. So the majority feel like it should go online. Yeah, yeah, that's a really interesting piece. And so what I want to share with you is a national study that was recently done of high school seniors. This is a national study that was conducted really around high school seniors, and it was from the Art and Science group, and they polled high school seniors about their thoughts about what they're most concerned about amid COVID-19 as it relates to college. So what you see in front of you are some of the top issues that they were most concerned about, most aware about. So affordability was one of them. And that typically is actually consistent whether there was COVID-19 or not. That is a way in which they think about, how am I going to afford college? There is honestly a challenge right now with the unemployment rate. We have changes of families, and maybe their work situation has changed. I myself have talked to several students around the country who have said, I might have to help my family. I need to think about what that will look like in terms of what the cost of colleges looks like. Admissions notification. How am I finding out about admissions? Those decisions, if I've even applied. Will I find out right away, or will they be delayed because many of the employees that are on college campuses may be either working remotely or they're not working at all right now during the summer months? Another area that high school students around the country have shared their concern is around health concerns, right? It is whether you're on ground or online, it's coupled with many other issues, but the health concerns about exposure. And we have seen an uptick of students wanting to live on campus, even if they're not that far from home, which we understand, and yet we want to make sure safety and health is front and center in terms of priority. They want to know, high school students around the country have said, how are the colleges, and particularly the ones they're thinking about, how are they handling the pandemic? How are they responding? Are they making good decisions? Are they telling me what those decisions are? And many high school students have said they're exploring options. They're looking at all the options available to them as it relates to what's happening as they think about college and what it will look like if they'll go away to college. Some originally might have planned to go out of state and may have chosen to now go closer to home. And they're also looking what are all the options available to them in terms of what the college experience will look like.
Dr. Connie, those are all good points, especially since students are trying to figure out all the different options that they have amidst COVID-19. But that brings us to our next question. In what ways has the college admissions process changed during the pandemic?
It's a great question. Admissions has really changed in several ways. But the most obvious one that I think has changed for all of society, at least right now during this time, is the virtual connections have increased significantly. So you will see, if you haven't already been connecting with a college or university, reaching out and many are going to text format, but social media, they're looking to individual connections. So those are many ways in which the admissions process has changed. There was a time where you would have been on the campus and had a campus tour. Another area that has changed, it's changed significantly, is the National Decision Day. So for years, the National Decision Day has been May 1st. And that day is usually where college students have declared where they're going to go. And you will see it on social media. You'll see signs out on their front lawn. You'll see lots of images of people declaring where they plan to go. That has shifted for many colleges and universities around the country. They are moving to June 1st as a shift. And in large part, it's because many families have had so much to contend with. They want to give them time to get that, much like our federal tax day has moved from April 15th, it's moved to July. And so the National Decision Day is the same thing. It has shifted by a month, which is good news because we're on May 13th and you still have a few more weeks. But where it plays out for students and their families is the college scholarship process is impacted by the decision date. So college scholarships are decided when students declare. The sooner they declare, they get packaged in financial aid. And as soon as the money runs out, then they go, and then that's where it ends up. So those that are in their first tier institutions, and I'm talking the gamut from largely highly selected, from the Harvards to the Yales and the Stanfords and the universities of Michigan, and the other second tier, third tier, and tier institutions. It's a National Decision Day, and it's usually a domino effect. So usually the highly selective institutions will pick their date, and then they'll go to their wait list. So that's a big shift for college admissions. Another area is the postponement for the SATs and ACTs. So you can see that those standardized tests that you would have largely have taken by now would have been entered into your application for college. It's all been postponed. And so that has been a real change for admissions in terms of deciding who they're going to admit as their pool. So grade point average will play a role, but we also know that many high schools are choosing not to have a GPA for this winter semester. So they're going to use other criteria now to determine their admissions, at least for this academic year, the 2020-2021 academic year. They're also looking to an expanded profile of the applicant. So what do I mean by that? They are looking to other factors. They're looking to the holistic student. So if you can see in essays that students are going through as they fill out applications, they want to know what service projects have they been involved in? How have they served their community? How have they gotten jobs outside of their work? How have they balanced their time? Have they been involved in extracurricular activities? Those factors are going to play into admissions now more than ever. And for 40 years, admissions has shifted to be more holistic. So academic rigor is both the SAT, the standardized test scores, as well as the grade point average. Now they're looking to other non-cognitive or holistic measures, and so you'll see that too. College scholarships are also being revamped. So you can imagine if there's no athletics or there's no performing arts, that's going to change. You still get a scholarship. The majority of colleges are saying yes, they're going to preserve those scholarships, but they're going to change the requirements. So everything is different now, and it's important to ask those key questions going forward. I'm going to ask you another question to poll. If you could, in the poll, if you've already decided or know someone, again, if you're not the student yourself, if you've already decided which college you're attending, or if you're a parent, has your student attended, or if you're a friend of a student that you know of, if you know whether they've decided which college they're attending or not, please, by all means, jump in and answer that poll. So we've got some answers coming in. Great. Okay, so I'll assume that the 6, would you say, Joe, or the 6 are probably some of us that are included in that?
That's what I'm thinking, but it looks like most of the students do not yet know which college they're going to.
Right, so that's very consistent with the national standard. Many students haven't decided yet. That's a big part of why the National Decision Day has shifted to June 1st. And a large part of that is because they haven't made other decisions about their family financial situation, if they're even going to be able to leave the state, if that was something that they had planned to do, or if they were going to go live on a residence hall on campus further away from home. If they're not within driving distance, that all is going to play into where they're going to ultimately decide. So those are some things that are very consistent with what's happening regionally and nationally.
Well, Dr. Connie, that brings us to our next question. How should students pick a college during this unusual time?
Oh, it's a great question. Right now, I would have said to most students in my time when I was working, I had the pleasure of visiting probably 90 colleges and universities over the last 15 years of working with students from all over the country, whether I was in Florida or I was in New York or California, and from highly selective students to less highly selective students. And right now, in this global pandemic, these are the criteria that you see here. I'm encouraging you to take notes, and by all means, if you want to reach out, we have lots of folks that we can connect you to that can help answer some of these questions. But you definitely want to look at creativity. Right now, this is a time of innovation. This is a time to find out how creative are these colleges and universities being to respond to this global pandemic. You've seen examples like certain science departments repurposing their labs to create PPE for healthcare. You've seen other examples of faculty using their talents and disciplines to deal with mental health, for example, in their community. One example is Madonna partnering with CAPA to try to educate folks, right? That creativity is something that you want to look for. You want to look for places that are reacting and responding and recognize the global pandemic is something that we need to take into consideration. Everything is not the same as it was before, and we need to look for that. The other thing that you want to think about as you pick a college, wherever it is, it's about openness. It's about flexibility. And if they're rigid with all their rules and regulations and don't understand a situation like, I need to take care of a family member, or like, I need an accommodation based on my own health situation, or like, my financial situation in my family has changed. If they aren't responding with an openness, that's a cue of where you want to go. You want to look to folks that understand what a student's experience is and can hear that information and is willing to be flexible to work with you. That is where colleges are going in terms of being responsive. You also want to look at variety. So you want to pick a college. If you haven't picked your major yet, you want to look at what are they known for? What is this college known for? Are they known for different things? Are they known solely for academics? Are they known solely for athletics? Are they known for being out in the community of service? Are they known in corporate industry? How are they known? What's the variety in that choice? What will my network look like? Will my peers be the kinds of peers that I want to have in my network going forward in whatever career that I have? You want to look at intentions. You want to look at what are their intentions? Are they looking out for my best interests? So, for example, you can look this up yourself, but you can look to U.S. News and World Report. You can look to other sources of who's the most affordable. If the national survey says affordability is a top concern for students, then you can look to U.S. News and World Report and find out who's the most affordable college in my state, who's the most affordable at a private institution, at a public, and compare. That intention says something. It says that we care about you, we want you. You should look for delight. And what I mean by delight is, what are they celebrating? How are they honoring their heroes? If they have a nursing program, or they have a frontliners program where they're producing criminal justice majors that are going out into law enforcement, how are they celebrating them? That celebration is an indication of the type of institution that you want to align with. And their ratings. You want to rate them on the quality of your interactions. So if you're seeing a virtual tour, what are they showing you? Are they showing you a water, pond, a lake, or are they showing you people? Are they showing you things that you value, that you care about? Those are important as you consider. And what's more important is, because we're in this situation where we have our best front door is virtual, the schools that have taken the time to change that, upgrade it, to make it current and fresh, are the ones that you want to look to do. It's not always in advertising. It's not always in the big billboards. Sometimes schools have chosen not to spend all their money on the marketing, and they've chosen to be very lean and focus on areas where the need is greatest. So look to different cues Sometimes, there was a study several years ago that the largest licensing agreement was in our own home state, the Maize and Blue, and they had the largest licensing agreement in the world for apparel. Their name was everywhere. That's not random, and I used to work there, as Joe had mentioned. I think what's interesting is that it's a choice, right? Is you have to think about they're incredible school for different things, but it's not a one size fits all. Everyone has to have their own rating for where is a good fit for where they want to go.
Okay, Dr. Connie, let's go to our next question here. What should students be looking for specifically in a college?
So here's my list. As you can see, I definitely think they should be looking for affordability. In this time right now with uncertainty, it's a tough walk. I have some colleagues that are at some really incredible institutions around the nation, and the sticker price is quite high. So what I would suggest is don't just look at sticker price. There's a net price calculator that you can access. It is federally required for all accredited colleges and universities to list a net price calculator on their website. So when you go into a website of a college, and you could pick 3 or 4, is to go into the net price calculator, and what it will show you is all the expenses. There's a Higher Education Reauthorization Act that was federally mandated by our legislature that requires all accredited colleges and universities to list their cost of education. They have to list the cost of books. They have to list what it would be to live on campus or fees built into it. So affordability is going to matter. And it will play out in many forms, including financial aid. You want to look for outcomes. You want to find out what did they produce? What kinds of graduates do they produce? Who's known for them? So if you go in a radius and you cited a particular field, you want to ask folks in that field, who do you know and where have they graduated from? I have a friend that I just talked to the other day who finished, and he's out in New York City, and he happens to be in the design fashion industry. Makes sense, because in New York, that would be the hub of it. But there's also incredible technology right in our own backyard. In Michigan, we're known for engineering, right? We have the automotive industry. So we need to look to our peers, and we need to ask questions and find out, what are the outcomes? What are they producing? We need to look for support. So support can come in a lot of forms. Programs on college campuses that, like the TRIO program, for example, if you haven't heard about it, there are also high school TRIO programs, but TRIO programs are for first generation. Their parents might not have gone to college, low income students, and students with disabilities. Those kinds of support programs are incredible for students because they help retain students. We also have support, and I say we in higher education, for students with disabilities. And that doesn't have to be a physical disability. It can be a learning disability, right? So there's all kinds of support. There's also mentoring and coaching. You want to look for that when you're looking for a college. To what extent do they invest in support? Because it's one thing to get into an institution. It's a whole nother level to be able to be retained and to ultimately graduate. That's the goal. You want to look for engagement. How are they engaging you? How are they creating traditions that make you feel like you're going to be an amazing alum one day, and how you want to wear their gear? I'm supporting Madonna University today. You want to look for that engagement. You want to look for all the excitement of what current students are dealing with. Community life. There's lots of activities on college campuses, whether it's a whole day of service or whether it's football games, athletic events, all kinds of social, cultural, educational events. I happen to have the pleasure of working as an advisor to many of the Asian American student organizations at colleges in the state of Michigan and in the region. If you've heard of the Midwest Asian American Student Union, it's a Midwest collection of colleges and universities across the Midwest of Asian American led student organizations. And they're an amazing collection. You want to look for those things, and in this context, because we're working with CAPA, it would make sense to be connected in that way. But there are so many. Equity. You want to look for equity, diversity, and inclusion. You want to ask a college, what are your diversity and inclusion rates? How are you attracting and retaining faculty and staff of color as well as students of color? What does that look like for you? Is it a diverse class? And then you want to trust your gut. So I put gut in here, which is, what do you feel when you're connecting with the people at a college campus? Do you get a good feeling about them? Do they tell you that they're interested in you? Do you get good vibes from them? Do they seem like they care? Do they seem like their values are aligned with your values? Your gut will tell you whether you're a fit when you look for a college that you ultimately want to go to. Sometimes it's very common for high school students to go with what their friends have chosen or go with the name brand college or university, which are great schools as well. I happen to graduate from them, but those aren't the only colleges and universities that are available. There's many choices, and we are in an amazing position in the state of Michigan to be in a state that has so many offerings of higher education. There are other states around the nation that don't have as many options as we do in terms of higher education. So you have lots of choice. And being in Metro Detroit, we even have more choice. So I would look to those kinds of things as it relates to picking a college or university. I want to ask you another poll question. If you could answer this poll, have you already decided what career, again, if you're a student, have you decided what career you want to go into, what you want to pursue? Or if you're a parent or a friend of the student, do you know if they've decided? How would you answer that question? Okay, we're getting some response. Another second, then we'll lock that in.
All right, Dr. Connie, it looks like most people do not know what they want to do yet for a career.
Right, and that's very fair. So you notice the difference that I didn't say what major you want to go into. There's national studies that we know in higher education where the careers haven't even been created yet. In the next 10 to 15 years, the majors that we know of today won't even exist. Majors are different from careers because someone could major in biology and have a career in a corporation. So those don't necessarily line up. And so what's very important as you think about careers is, what am I going to use to make my decision? How will I even begin to know? The good news is you don't have to have it all figured out right now. You don't need to know exactly what you want to go into. You don't even need to have everything planned out. However, what I would say to you is, what you can do is start to look for those resources. So one example of those resources that I want to share with you is Michigan's Hot 50 Jobs through 2026. This is on the state of Michigan government website. I put the link in here, but you can also, we'll send you information after, we'll send you the PowerPoint afterwards so you can have this information available to you. But I'd strongly suggest that you don't just guess. It's not a guessing game anymore. And I will say there's more and more careers that haven't even been named yet, but I would try to identify what do you love? What do you enjoy? That could be working with people. Or you could decide that you actually don't want to interact with people and you're very much an individual kind of person. The top 50 jobs lists information that the state of Michigan of what we're going to need through 2026. It's 2020 right now. So for the next 6 years, which is anyone who's in high school right now who's about to enter college, this applies to them. It tells information about projected annual job openings in the state of Michigan. Now, if you're planning to leave the state and go out of state, that's a whole nother story. But let's just start with Michigan. There's also national data that you can tap into too. But it'll tell you how many jobs they're expecting to be open in different fields. It'll tell you the wages, specifically the range of how much a person will make. It will also tell you the job growth, what percentage of growth of jobs will likely be available. And they're using predictive information, right? Analytics around the likely population that will retire and what openings will take place. And then they talk about the typical types of education. The vast majority of the top 50 jobs require at least a bachelor's degree. Some of them require a master's degree. So for example, it's been on the top 50 list for at least the last decade. I also teach in their master's program at Madonna for our higher education administration program. So many people have said to me, well, what is that? Because they think of college as you're either faculty or you're a student. Well, my answer is it's much like a business administration degree, right? It's how to run a college or university. So it is in the top 50 jobs, and it does require a master's degree. which for some programs, it could be 30 credits, which could be a year and a half to 2 years after you finish your bachelor's degree. The reason why most people don't know about it is because there's no bachelor's degree in higher education administration. But there's where the jobs are going to be lined up. And you can see in the top 50, where's the demand? What I would say is look to see what is the demand and then see where you're a good fit for it. That's how you want to start thinking about career. I know, particularly in the Asian American community, and those of you that are parents on this, will say you have to go science and you have to go medical or you have to go engineering. I get it. I came from the same household. I understand it. And I'm not here to change that perspective. What I am here to invite all of you as you sit down with your student or interact with people that you know are making that decision is start with fit, because not everyone is going to be lined up sciences and math. There are many that are, but not everyone, it doesn't apply to everyone. And so the sooner you can get to fit, the better you're able to complete it and then get right into it. I've seen students over the last 25 years take 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years to complete because they're spinning in terms of deciding what they want to pursue. That's challenging, and it's probably one of the hardest things I have to experience when I see a student swirling because they're swirling because they don't know if it's their goals or someone else's goals and aspirations. So much of that is tied to wanting to be successful in life, wanting to achieve independence, wanting to be able to support your loved ones. And so there are ways to do that. It's finding out where is the demand. Right now, anyone who wants to go into commerce, e-commerce, anything virtual is definitely front and center, as we can tell by the world we're in. But there's also amazing connections between pulling together your love for music and maybe your love for science and how they might intersect. There's lots of creativity that's out there, and companies are going to start to look for those things.
Okay, Dr. Connie, our next question is, how has the financial landscape changed in college?
So lots of changes in the financial. That was the #1 feature for the national survey for the high school students. They wanted to know affordability. So I will tell you this, and please tell everyone that you know is in high school who's about to go into college. If you have not completed the federal free application for federal student aid, it's called the FAFSA for short, I say do it now, do it yesterday, do it ASAP, drop everything and make that your top priority. Why do I say that? Because the FAFSA is what drives all of the scholarship decision-making for colleges and universities. Once the FAFSA is in play, they make decisions based on that. And that's even if you don't intend to utilize student loans. There are many families that don't plan to. But I will tell you this, it is about investing in yourself and investing in the future. Many student loans I know are quite scary for individuals and families, and I'm not suggesting in any way that you should just automatically max out and take whatever loans are available to you. But I will say to you this, is that many other countries around the world don't even have a federal student loan program, and they have to have cash up front before they can enroll in classes. This is the ticket to a future of whatever career students want to go into. And I tell everyone, because so many students wait to the last minute or don't even fill it out because they don't want the student loans. And what they're really doing is actually not allowing the college to evaluate whether or not they're going to qualify for a scholarship. So you want to do the free FAFSA application and then name the schools you're interested in, and that will at least tell the college that you're interested, and then they'll start to consider you for different applications. So for example, another area, when the FAFSA gets completed, we have state of Michigan resources and we have college resources. So one example at Madonna is we have this Mosaic Leadership Academy. I put the link in here, but there are many programs around the state and around the country. One example is that program is a $4,000 scholarship per year and $16,000 of college scholarship money over the course of a bachelor's degree. That's an available option for students that need to get involved and be engaged. And the whole purpose of that program is to help support students. It's about inclusive leadership for an inclusive world is the goal. So it's intended to help students develop their leadership skills so they're ready, industry ready by the time they graduate. That's an example. Any programs like that are drawing on data from the FAFSA to say who can we consider for these applications, for these programs. I suggest to you to look at the sticker price. Don't look at it just the sticker price. Look past the sticker price. Sometimes individuals just say, oh, they're too expensive, and automatically opt out because they think they're a private school or they think there's no way they can afford it. I can tell you right now, the sticker price oftentimes is quite deceiving, because when you go past that, there's a net price. And when you apply scholarships and you apply grants and get considered for different things, sometimes it's a room waiver, sometimes it comes in the form of work study. Depending again on that FAFSA application, you might find that it ends up being much more affordable than you originally thought. So don't assume is what I'm suggesting. Ask for sources of funding. Right now, this is the high school students, they are driving this right now. You can ask as many questions and not feel any shyness or embarrassment to it whatsoever. In fact, I tell everyone, ask. Even when they don't bring it up, ask. Because you should find out what sources are available to me. The sooner you make a deposit to a college, if you want to commit, the sooner you're able to be considered for different scholarships. It's when a person makes a deposit is when the clock starts. So if you haven't made a deposit yet, it's okay, but just know that other people are making those deposits, and there's only a certain pool of funds. Sometimes it comes in the form of a room waiver, living on campus. It could come in the form of a grant. So a deposit is your indication telling a school, I'm committed to you. Once you show them you're committed, they're going to show you back how they're committed to you, and then they'll give you all the information. And then you want to consider the impact year. So we've learned that many high school students are thinking about taking a gap year. They're thinking about sitting out for a year until COVID-19 is over and then starting to enroll in college. My only caveat to you to think about is, once you do that, and if you want to go to community college, let's say you decide you're going to take classes at community college, it's definitely an option to you. You just have to know that when you do that and you complete certain credits, you will be considered a transfer student after that point. So if you transfer to a four-year university after that first year, that gap year that you want to take, it may save money, but in the long run, it no longer qualifies you for scholarships that are only available to new students. FIDIACs, we call them. First time in any college, an FTIAC. So think about what that will mean for you, because sometimes it feels like savings on the front end, but in the long run, there are far less scholarships available for transfer students compared to students that are right out of high school. The vast number of scholarships that are available are those that come right out of high school.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Connie. Lastly here, do you have any final comments or resources that you'd like to share with our students on the webinar?
I do. Thank you for asking, Joseph. I want to share these couple thoughts with you. I want to say the sooner you begin, the sooner you complete. So sometimes folks say that I want to have a year or two before I start up. Tuition isn't necessarily changing, and the job market isn't changing either. The sooner you start, the sooner you complete. So keep that in mind as you think about when you want to start. Your goal is to get done, and most people should and can get done in 4 years. That is the #1 goal, because then you start to receive the return on your investment. Then you start to see getting into the job market, or if you decide you want to go to graduate school, or a professional school, right, for law school, or you want to go to medical school, pharmacy school, or you want to go get your MBA, then you're already in the path of what that will look like. The other thing is I can tell you is you got to keep calm right now. I know it seems very turbulent right now, and it feels very uncertain, but at the end of the day, you need to ask questions and ask away. There is nothing that will stop you from asking what you need to know. There's no shame in it. By all means, ask. I want you to think about having hope. It is the anchor of the soul. You have to believe this too shall pass. So whatever it is you're thinking, look for help and sources of help. We have, for example, 24/7, 365 days, mental health support for all of our students. Many colleges do around the country. That is a big source of support. And then the last thing I want to share with you in terms of my messages, and then I have 2 other resources, is begin with the end in mind. It's Stephen Covey's quote. So think about the day you walk across the stage after college graduation. What would you like to say about the value of your college degree, and work backwards? When you work backwards, it's a lot easier to chart out your course. of where you want to go. And we do this for years in terms of helping students figure out, okay, I want to achieve this. I just talked to a student who just graduated from us, and he was in marketing, and we connected him with an organization, a nonprofit organization here in Metro Detroit. Guess what? There was a Fortune 500 company that was working with this nonprofit, got to meet him through this social kind of gathering, and now he's landed a six-figure job with a bachelor's degree. Now, that's not common. It's not very common for many students, but it's not necessarily about going to just the only school that's available. It's about creating a pathway for your experiences. And I want to share these other things. I want to ask you one other poll question. Have you applied for financial aid? Or if you know someone, have they applied for financial aid yet? Have you applied, or someone you know, have they applied for financial aid? Great, starting to come in. And there's no shame if you haven't yet, it's okay. So now we're at a tie. So you can see, right, we're on average about a 50-50 split. So what I'm telling you right now, those that have, follow up with it, and those that haven't, apply now. And if you have questions, there's all kinds of resources that will help you figure that out. And I want to share with you, thanks for that poll, in terms of where we are. But that FAFSA is going to drive all the financial aid that's going to be available to you. Two last things that I want to share with you before we open it up for Q&A are APA IA Scholars. This used to be called the Asian Pacific Islander American Scholarship Fund. And for about 13 years, I had the pleasure of being part of the national organization. And they housed the Gates Millennium Scholarship Program. They administered the Bill and Melinda Gates Scholarship Program. So if you go to their website as an Asian American student, and there are many for other ethnic groups as well, so I'm only speaking because of the CAPA connection, is to share this information with you. There are national scholarships that you can apply for now through APIA scholarships. It is much like UNCF, and they are a partner, and there's also a Native American Scholarship Fund. So this is a national fund that gets access to national funding. These are other sources that you want to tap into, and I was just on their site the other day. They have all kinds of information about supports for students. They serve in large part Asian American serving institutions. Most of them are on the West Coast. There's a few in Chicago because there's large numbers of Asian Americans. The other site that I want to point you to is the Federal Student Aid site. And you can see the link right there, studentaid.gov. So those of you that are parents and you want to know about the finances and what they're looking for, it's all in there. They can tell you that these are federally backed up student loans, and there's also grants that the state will look to too. But those are a couple resources that I would point you to get started. And just know that you have a support with CAPA and you have a support with Madonna University if that's of help to you. We have amazing institutions, again, in the state of Michigan. So thank you.
Okay, we are now at the question and answer portion of the webinar. So if there are any parents or students that would like to ask any questions, you can put them in the chat box right now. Let's see. Or if you want, you can raise your hand and I'll try to see if you're asking a question or not. Okay.
While you're thinking, if I can share some stories with you, it might get people thinking about a question or two. That's okay? So one of the wonderful things that I've been very fortunate to have experienced is every year for 12 years, and this is the bar of bars of scholarship. You want to talk about the ultimate. The Bill and Melinda Gates Scholarship Program started in the year 2000, and it's a $1.6 billion investment on college scholarships, and the whole point was building leadership for the future. And those students who started, and it included Asian American students, Native American students, Latino, and African American students, received a full ride of unmet need anywhere in the country, anywhere they wanted to go into the country at any institution that they chose. And those students oftentimes, when they completed their bachelor's degree, also went on to pursue advanced degrees in higher education, like a master's and MBA program or medical school in other areas. The Gates Scholarship funded them all the way through their entire degree, so they completely met all unmet need. Now, I say that because in my years, and I know this isn't necessarily for that, what I've learned from the process, because what I did in my work with them is I would train the people who were picking the scholars to ultimately get the scholarship. My work was to help those who were going to select those scholarships and understand what criteria they should use. So this is what I'm telling you right now. That holistic view that I mentioned earlier about looking at your whole portfolio, not just your grades. Your grades are important, and your standardized tests. But in light of the fact that standardized tests are on hold right now, it's all those other factors that are playing out. So I'm telling you that it's about your service to community. Have you been involved in your community? And if so, how? Have you been in leadership roles? How have you played a leadership role? And I'm not just talking about a position that I was president of this organization or vice president of this organization. I'm talking about initiating, creating things, showing leadership. Did you start a program that might help elderly? You know, could you be sweeping up, you know, cutting your grass? Could it be around delivering groceries? That's leadership. How have you been involved in mentoring? Have you gotten a mentor or been a mentor? Those are criteria that the top of the scholarship food chain, so to speak, have been using. How positive are you about yourself? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that you can do it? Do you believe that you're realistic with yourself? So I had a student one time tell me that they were going to be a lawyer and they couldn't wait to go into law school, but guess what? They didn't like talking to people. That's going to be a problem. If you can't talk and you're going to be a lawyer, that doesn't line up. So realistic self-appraisal is going to be very critical. Are you pulling together different non-traditional skills? So I knew a student who was in college who knew how to cut hair and paid for all of their textbooks and all of their extra fees just from cutting their classmates' hair in college in the residence hall. I knew students both at the University of Michigan and at Michigan State. That kind of creativity goes a long way. And the last one is navigating the system. Do you know how to navigate a system? I had a student who was very shy, and believe it or not, and it happens because I myself was very shy, I had a student who didn't know how to get into the bookstore and called their parent because they were worried about buying their books. So guess what? The parent called the president's office, and the president's office called me and said the student is afraid to get their books. And I said, tell me a little bit more, what's happening here? And the parent was trying to help, right? So we have this thing called helicopter parents. We love them, they care for us. And then we're on to Velcro parents, you know, who want to help clear the path, and now it's clearing, like curling, the sport of curling. So these are all wonderful things because we love our student. But guess what? The student is the adult in college, and they're the ones that have to make the decision. So what we've done is try to help students to say, look, it's okay to not know what to do. Many college folks who work on campuses know how to help students, but it's important. We're not mind readers. There's no crystal ball. So you have to be able to figure out what are those resources and find out who's my lifeline. It's just like a game show. You got to have lifelines, right? So these are kinds of the tips that I would share with you, because after that Gates model, it all comes from there. All the other scholarships are figuring out what is the landscape of who I'm going to choose. How am I going to select distributing this scholarship money? And there is a lot of scholarship money available, which is another webinar in the near future.
Dr. Connie, we have a question from one of the students. Chloe's asking, what is Madonna's Mosaic Scholar Program, and can community college students still be eligible?
That's a great question. So if students want to transfer to us, it's worth asking. So I would ask that of any school, right? Is there a way to transfer in? We have had some students transfer to us and have by exception made an exception for them to consider us, right? And consider getting that scholarship. So Claire Ofiara, who's probably sent you the link to this webinar, she's actually the director of that program. And so what I would suggest is that you email Claire and find out if that's something that's even an option. And I would even say don't stop there. Mosaic Leadership Academy is an amazing program, and I would say there's many other programs depending on where it is. If you play an instrument, or you're in a sport, or you have a particular passion, we have service scholarships. And again, I'm sharing this with you because my work with colleges and universities around the country, we don't know what we don't know, and it's okay not to know. But what's not okay is not to ask. You have to be willing to ask, and it's okay to be shy, and it's okay to be unsure. That's all okay, but knowledge is power. You've got to know in order to make a good decision. And anyone who's out there watching this, and hopefully it'll be recorded to share with others, if you don't know, then find somebody who does know, right? There are plenty of folks in CAPA that can be incredible resources that will tie you back to someone who can get you the answer. We can get you answers. You just have to make informed decisions. And that means for any type, again, a highly selective school to an open policy, a rolling policy school. So you just got to know what your options are. Thanks for asking, Chloe.
Okay, so does anybody, if nobody else has any other questions then, Dr. Connie, is there anything else that you'd like to say? Otherwise, we'll go on to our raffle. We're ending a little bit early today.
Yeah, if I could just ask if you could just type in your chat box, just some feedback, some quick feedback about what you learned today, something that stood out for you, something that you didn't know that surprised you, or some thought about something you heard today that was interesting to you, or what your overall feedback was. That'd be great. So in the chat box right now, if you could do that, that would be really helpful. We want to make sure that what you need and support you through this. The whole idea of being in this together is key right now. If I could tell you where I was so many years ago, I was the shyest person in the room and probably in the whole block. But thanks to people who invested in me, and thanks to individuals that were willing to show me what I didn't know, helped point out to me ways in which I could learn information. And mentors were a big part of that. And you have support. You will be surprised in the college setting how much support there is, and that's for all students. Right now we're in the context of the Asian American community, but I would say by far across the board, our goal is to contribute to students' retention. We want them to graduate. We want to see them out in the world doing amazing things. And realistically, the world that we're in right now, we need people like you to go out in the world and do amazing things. We need you to be a trailblazer. We need you to be active and engaged in your community. So whatever it's going to take for us to help you on that continuum, you got to say it, because we're not mind readers. I don't have a crystal ball, but I wish I could see you. If I were across the table from you, you'd probably get my energy and we would be able to tap into each other. Look for those organizations that are going to support you, and look for those people that are committed to your success. What do I mean by that? Committed to your success. People who aren't just naysaying or tell you you'll never get a job in that field, those are not committed to your success. You'll never be successful in that. You won't make enough money. That's not commitment to your success. Now, I'm not also saying that everyone who's positive is committed to your success either. Sometimes you need to keep it real, right? We need to keep it real with each other, because if you're not fit for a certain field, you got to make sure that you're a fit. So what I'm saying to you is you got to balance where you think you are and get enough feedback around in your circle of influencers and get feedback on how can I make a good decision, an informed decision. But thanks so much for your time. We hope it was helpful. And by all means, feel free to reach out to us. And it's just the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Connie. So I'll read off some of the comments from our students, but I just want to make sure that I have everyone in the raffle that stayed till the end. So I'm just going to be announcing the names. If I didn't announce your name and you are a student, just raise your hand in Blackboard and I'll add you to the list. So I have Astrochronos Flores, Chloe Schultz, Izzy number 2, Kurt Solden, and are anyone else in the chat parents representing students or students? If they are, please raise your hand and I'll add you to the list, but I'll read some of the comments that we have for you, Dr. Connie. So regarding the webinar, very informative. They'll share their resources with their seniors and their parents. Izzy says this was very informational and very specific. The slides are very helpful. So we'll be uploading the slides and the webinar video for you to share with your friends as well. Thank you. Also, Astroconos Flores says, I thought for a while that going to community college, but now transferring to a 4-year would have saved me money. But now I'm thinking differently. So make sure to do your research, people. But what Dr. Connie, this is what she does for a living. So that's why we're here to help you. Chloe Schultz says, I really like the relevant information that can help us make informed decisions during this difficult time. And Kurt says he's glad that you brought up the FAFSA applications, and he's going to be applying right away. So I think then we have all the students there.
Can I just make one more comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is what I would tell you too, is that thank you for all your feedback. It matters, and we'll tweak it, and then we'll work towards improving it on whatever other offerings CAPA offers. So all of you that are on this, here's what I would suggest. I would suggest that after this session, you go on whatever platform, you tell all your friends and family, you missed out on CAPA's webinar. You missed out. You need to find the recording. You need to get the information. Let me tell you, because one, those of you that are on this, you just got access to winning this prize, this amazing prize. I don't know about you, but I don't know where I'm going to make this prize in the last hour by just listening to information that's already helpful to me. But you need to go out and spread the word and say, CAPA has done amazing stuff in partnership with Madonna to let us know what's going on. And this is what we need to do in community. We need to share information and help each other. When you do that, then the power of this webinar magnifies, right? So that the one we have next week should have more people jumping on because they want to join it and find out that information in the following week. And then that will tell CAPA we need to offer more of this. And whatever topic it is, this is how you can get involved. This is leadership. And let me tell you, if you do this, these are ways in which colleges are looking for leaders. They want to see people that take initiative, that care about community. So I just want to applaud you for engaging, and thank you for posting your comments. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Connie. And the quote of tonight's webinar is keep it real.
Keep it real. That's right.
Keep it real. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen here for our raffle so you guys can see what's going on. And we have the list of names here. So we've got Astrochronos, Chloe, Izzy, and Kurt. Can everybody see the spinning wheel? Okay, so this is for our first gift card for $50.
My camera's off.
Uh-oh. Astrochronos, congratulations. You've got the first one, so I'll be removing you now from the raffle. And now it's going to be down to Chloe, Izzy, or Kurt. Okay, let's see here. There we go. Congratulations to Izzy and Astro Chrono. So let me get back to the screen. Okay, so congratulations. We'll have someone get in contact with you. So we're reminding you that we have our next webinar series, or the second part of 3 parts, will be next Wednesday, same time, same place. So if you want to share the information with your friends, we'll be having more gift cards to raffle off for next week's webinar, as well as the week after that. So on behalf of the Council of Asian Pacific Americans, which is CAPA, and Madonna University, Dr. Connie, thank you for having us, and thank you for speaking today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
To our students, I think we may even be having a special prize for those students that attend all three webinars. We'll have a special raffle for you guys on the 3rd webinar. So spread the word, tell your friends, and our next webinar is going to be on, I'm trying to find my notes here. Well, we'll be talking, I think we're talking about scholarships next webinar, right, Dr. Connie?
I believe so. That's a great question. I believe so. I know we're meeting next Wednesday at the same time, and then the following week. Yes, next week is on scholarships. It's finding funding.
So make sure that you register for that one if you haven't. And I guess that's it for us. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Connie. And thank you to everyone else behind the scenes. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.